Hey YouTube, Epi Wolf is back. I thought rather than doing a pipe and tobacco video today, I'd do one about watches. I've been collecting watches for a couple of years and been kind of changing the direction I want to go with it, so I wanted to share my thoughts on that. We'll probably do another pipe and tobacco video at some point soon, but yeah, today's watches. Hope you enjoy. So here's a few of my watches. I picked these ones because they have interesting stories or some history behind them, and some iconic brand names here. So let's start off with Vostok. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm just kind of pronouncing the name the way it looks with a Russian accent, but this is a sort of vintage style Vostok. It's a brass watch actually with a mechanical movement. You have to hand wind it. And I bought this from the Russian Federation over eBay. It took a couple months to get here, but it's an authentic Russian military style watch. So that's pretty cool. And then we have its more modern counterpart. Vostok Europe makes these beautiful limousine. I'm trying to find a nice angle there where you can see it well. Limousine dress watches. This one has a power reserve subdial, which is pretty cool, I think. And sapphire crystal. It's got a nice automatic movement, self-winding. Really beautiful watch. When I first switched from a blue-collar sort of job to a office job, the first watch I got was this Invicta. And most people who are into watches don't really like Invictas. And I can see why. Most of their, I don't know, they have either a lot of kind of garish sort of styles or homage sort of styles, which this watch is basically a clone of a Rolex Submariner. But it's a nice solid watch. I mean, it's well built. It's got a Seiko movement in it with this, oh, look at that, see-through case back. And it really is a quality watch, actually. I've had it going on, I don't know, 3 years or so now. And it's held up really well. Is it my favorite? No, but I'm happy with it just because it helped me kind of get into the hobby here. And actually, I'm not a huge fan of the gold plating either, but it kind of matched my tie clip and some other things. So that was the first one I went for because the color motif kind of matched. Next up, I've got a couple of micro brand watches, these deep blue divers. I've got two of them that are very similar. Let me see if I can get this lighting a little bit better here. Yeah, look at that. They're rugged dive watches with some kind of brighter colors. Got nice Swiss automatic movements. So you can see this one's got a mother of pearl dial. Really, just look at how thick that dial is, and the whole construction is just beautiful. After I've been into kind of doing stuff with watches for a while, I got this watch, which was a micro brand watch, and it came with a date bubble. Like this watch, this Invicta has this date bubble on the glass, and so did this Nautis. So I took this watch apart, actually. I took apart the case, I removed the glass, the crystal, and all the guts in between. And I actually used heat to separate that date bubble by kind of reactivating the glue. And I put it all back together. I put this nice nylon strap on it. And now this is my watch I kind of like go hunting with and that sort of thing. Hunting, boating, It's basically like a beater watch for me. But I kind of modified it, so I don't know. I like it. It's nice rugged style. I'd feel comfortable doing, I don't know, most anything in the garage or out in the field with it. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, I've got 4 different Bulivas over here. And one reason I gravitated towards this brand was my father gave me this watch for a gift a few years ago. And it's a vintage Buliva. And it once upon a time belonged to my dad's best friend who was in the service in Vietnam. And he was part of like a rescue crew with helicopters. You see in some of those movies, a helicopter comes in and a guy comes down on a rope and rescues somebody. Well, John Bax did that, and this was his watch that his parents bought him when he came back from the war. And he survived a lot of missions doing that, but unfortunately developed cancer, possibly as a side effect of the Agent Orange and other chemicals he was exposed to in Vietnam. But this watch belonged to him, and he gave it to my father when he passed away. And my father did some nice maintenance work on it. He got the crystal replaced because that was damaged, and also kind of a tune-up on the movement. It was kind of gummed up, so that was good. And that watch has I don't know, a lot of sentimental significance because of that. So after that Bulova, I bought a few of my own. I've got the iconic moon watch. One of the NASA commanders was wearing his Omega Speedmaster on a lunar mission, and the Omega, the crystal came off of it, and they just happened to have a prototype of this watch. Sorry, I can't get to focus very well. With him, that Bulova gave him and asked him to carry. So he slipped that watch on, and so now this is famous as the kind of second moon watch. Now look at the movement on this. It times 100th of a second on that right hand subdial, and look at that smooth movement of the second hand. It's really a really great watch, actually, besides just being kind of a reproduction of something from a historical point of view. It's great. Now, this Bulova is a precisionist chronograph, and it's one of the most accurate court watches out there, and it times down to 1/1000th of a second, so it's super accurate. I mean, depending on how fast your fingers can press the buttons, but you have this upper subdial running with the tenths and hundredths of a second, and then once you stop it, it shows the thousandths on the lower subdial there. So that's also a pretty neat watch. And then lately, I've been getting more into these vintage style watches. I've got a couple of Zodiacs. The one on the right here is a Super Seawolf, which is a great vintage design. This is one of the first proper dive watches. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms, however you say that one, that came out, and also the Rolex Submariner and the Zodiac Super Seawolf right around the same time. And they were the first 3 proper dive watches that you could use for diving. So that's pretty cool. I have a modern reproduction of one of those. It's a beautiful watch made right across the street from Rolex, actually, with an in-house movement. The same people make the movement, the dial, the case, all the actual watch parts, which is pretty rare these days. Most companies, piece together all sorts of stuff from other producers. The other Zodiac is this astrographic. That's another reproduction of a famous vintage watch. The red second hand, which isn't actually a hand, it's just a dot, is kind of the defining cool feature on this. And you'll notice none of the hands are actually attached to the axis in the middle. It's called a mystery dial. Pretty popular back in the late 60s, early 70s. And this is a pretty limited run of watch here. This is number 42 of 150, 158, something like that. So, yeah, really cool watch. Really like these Zodiacs. I've been wearing those a lot lately. Yeah, so there's a few of my watches. Going forward, I think, every guy who's into watches probably wants to get a Rolex at some point, and I'd like to. We'll see what happens. Last time I looked at it, they're a lot of money, so if that works out, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But there's some other cool types of watches. There's Flieger style watches from World War II, the pilot watches. I'd like to get a reproduction of one of those. The reproductions just fit me better than buying the vintage watches, because the vintage watches, come in like this size, like this Bulova, which is actually tiny on my wrist. I've got larger wrists and hands, so buying the actual vintage watches, not so great for me. Getting the modern reproductions like the Super Seawolf and the Lunar Pilot and all that, they're pretty cool. They got a lot of history. They're made by the original companies for the most part, Well, those are the ones I go after anyway. And the history is just really interesting to me. So, yeah, I've been thinking about that aviator watch. I'd like to get my hands on a Tissot watch as well. They're supposed to be really nice, so we'll see. Anyway, I thought that might interest some of my fellow Pipers, so hope you all are doing well. Have a great Christmas coming up, and Happy New Year. All right, see you, bye.